So here's a little bit of a longer interpretation of the question I asked this morning about what are the principles of AA. So a lot of people do say that they're the steps. And like I said, in the 12 and 12, in the introduction, in the preface, it says that the steps are a set of principles which, if practiced, can expel the obsession to drink and help the sufferer live a healthy and happy life. But they are not specifically the principles. And it's interesting because the 12th step says we practice these principles in all our affairs, which implies a fixed set. But Bill himself said that the steps are not the principles. In fact, he said in a book called Language of the Heart that the principles of the program are unique to the members of our society because they represent the opposite of the defects and shortcomings that I possess as an alcoholic. What does that mean? Well, let's say that I spend my life lying, right? Deny till you die, that type of vibe, outlaw kind of style. So when I get sober, I have someone that says, are you honest? And I'm like, as best I can. I mean, I don't lie about drinking and I don't lie about stealing and I don't lie about, being a shithead and I don't punch people randomly. I try to be a better guy. But I've spent 30 years of my life in a default setting of fabrication, which means I go to my home group and a guy looks at me and goes, "Oh, hey, did you watch the 49er game?" And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, it was fucking great." I didn't watch the game. Why did I lie to this guy? Well, first of all, it's subconscious, right? A lot of times. It's a defense mechanism. It's a safety mechanism. It's a delusional part of my life as a drug addict and alcoholic. I literally deny everything. It's just a lot easier that way. I mean, you hear people say all the time, if you just tell the truth, you don't have to remember anything, which is good if you're a beginner. But I'm kind of a semi-pro when it comes to the art of deception, which means the same can be said for the opposite end of the spectrum, which means if I lie about everything, I don't got to remember shit either because everything's the same. So this guy asked me if I watched the game and I say, "Oh, yeah." And then I sit in the meeting and I don't hear anything because I look at this guy and I literally go like this. What the fuck is wrong with me? Why do I have to lie to some guy about a game that I don't give a shit about to some dude who's in my home group, but really I don't find him all that attractive or interesting. I think that he's just a lame-o and I wouldn't be friends with him anyway, which means why am I trying to impress to somebody that I find below my standard to start with? I mean, that's the whole truth. Well, after I do a 4-step and a 5th-step, 6, 7, and 8, and 9, I realize my pathologies. The reason I lie is because I'm needy and pathetic and childish, and I want people to like me, and I'm insecure, and I'm afraid that I'm going to get rejected and abandoned because what Bill says in step 8 in the 12 and 12 on page 80 is that defective relations with other human beings have nearly always been the immediate cause of our woes, including our alcoholism, which means I'm not alcoholic. I don't have bad relationships because I'm alcoholic. I'm alcoholic because I've never had good relationships. And the fact of the matter is, I'm afraid that I'm going to be judged. I'm afraid I'm going to be abandoned. I'm afraid I'm going to be rejected, which means I lie preemptively without even thinking about it to minimize my rejection and abandonment. And so I spent 30 years doing this over and over and over and over again. So how do I stop that habit? It's almost impossible. I can't, if I lie subconsciously and I fabricate and I obfuscate and I omit and I confuse, and it's my default setting, then how do I think, "Oh, don't lie"? I can't. So how do I practice the principle of honesty? Well, that's why step 9 and 10 come before step 12. Because if I'm engaged in a 10th step where I constantly and readily and immediately admit when I'm wrong, not when I'm sorry, My bad. I'm wrong. I don't want to be wrong. This is what I'm going to do to fix it. Which means I engage in corrective response. So my reaction is to lie because I'm jaded, I'm cynical, and I'm scared. But my response is to correct that. So after the meeting, I go up to this guy and I walk up to him. I'm like, dude, I'm sorry. I lied. I don't know why. My bad. I feel like an idiot. And then I skulk off in a mopey face like this. And I just skulk the hell off. And granted, that's annoying and embarrassing, but the guy's not going to be mad. He may think I'm an idiot, which would not be incorrect, but he's not going to get mad. And so what I start to do is consistently have a corrective response to my subconscious reaction, which is to lie. So I lie and I fix it, and I lie and I fix it. And I get to the point where I'm looking at people saying, bro, I lied to you. I'm sorry. I don't even know why. 10, 20, 30 times a day. Until it gets so damn annoying that it subconsciously starts to infect my brain. This corrective response becomes more effective. Well, what does that mean? That means I lie and I fix it. And then I lie and I fix it. And I lie and I fix it. And crazily, the fix gets closer and closer to the lie over time. And then all of a sudden, without me even knowing it, that fix jumps in front of the lie. And now the guy asked me if I watched the hockey game. And I'm like, yeah, you know what? No, I didn't. Or before that, what happens is this. He goes, did you watch the hockey game? I'm like, yeah, dude, I was just about to lie to you. My bad. And I get to the point where I'm actually correcting it mid-sentence because the next step is preemptive correction. Because the next time he asks me if I watched the football game or the hockey game or the basketball game, I say, no, dude, I was surfing, and then I literally did some step work with one of my guys. That's it. Because I no longer have this need to be validated or recognized. And what happens is I just become authentic and I tell them the truth. And all of a sudden, without me even knowing it, my tendency to obfuscate, my tendency to omit, my tendency to confuse and outright deceive is replaced by me just saying the truth. And all of a sudden, without me even knowing it, what happens? I no longer engage in corrective response, in correcting my lie. I now tell the truth, which means all of a sudden, without me knowing it, I have left my defect, my shortcoming, and replaced it, right, with the principle of honesty. And so now when the guy says, hey, do you watch that football game? I'm like, no, I was hanging out with my wife. We were making brownies. It was awesome. There you go. I can't conscientiously practice a principle until I remove the obstacle to that principle, which is the defect or the shortcoming. And I can only do that through corrective adjustments. I practice the principles in all my affair once I stop practicing the shortcomings in my life. Think about that one.